I know why we're all here. First, I want to take a second to welcome you guys to Phoenix Comicon 2017. Thank you so much for coming. I am really excited to introduce our next guest. Little 1980s me is a little excited right now. During that time of my life, our next guest was pretty much king of the geeks. Since then, he's gone on to play a number of television and film roles in, well, pretty much every genre. Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Michael Hall. Yeah, well, if you want to, you can stand, you can walk around.
Yeah, I'll sit.
Yeah, you start getting a little antsy, you know? Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. We are so thrilled to have you.
It's such an honor. Thank you so much.
I usually do conventions that are a lot smaller. I walked in here like Super Bowl weekend. I was like,
Did I miss a score? What's going on?
but it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and ask you a couple questions, and then you guys in the audience, you'll see these microphones in the aisles. Feel free to come on down if you have some questions for Mr. Hall. We've got some people that'll help field those for us. So I want to ask you, you recently were in a project with Brad Pitt. Can you tell us about that?
I think he's going to have a career, that guy. He's pretty good. I think the girls like him. You know, I had the privilege, thank you, of doing a film with Brad, Mr. Pitt, 2 years ago. It's called War Machine, and it starts streaming on Netflix today and around the world. And Netflix is pretty amazing, so thank you. Yeah. And I'd just like to say I'm so honored because, you know, my grandfather served in World War II, and I had an uncle in the Korean War and one in Vietnam too. And you know, I'm playing the characters based on General Mike Flynn, and Pitt is playing a character based on General Crystal. And it's a great film. There's a lot of really great actors in it. Alan Ruck and so many, Ben Kingsley, and it's a great film. So hopefully you guys have the energy when you get home tonight. You can stream it and check it out, but I hope you enjoy it.
What's the name?
It's called War Machine. Yeah. So thank you. I just want to mention that. Very happy with how it turned out. So how are you guys feeling out there? Everybody good? Are you happy with PDC? Everybody have lunch? Everything's good?
Another question I have for you. So I was born in the 70s, so in the 80s, John Hughes movies were a pretty big deal. Do you guys remember any of those movies? Now, I know for a lot of us, they helped us get through some awkward times in our life. We all felt a little less weird watching those movies.
They helped me get through some awkward times too.
That's what I was going to ask you about. What a segue. So how did those movies help you?
Well, first of all, I just want to honor John Hughes. I mean, as we all know, he was such a brilliant guy. I mean, he's such a great writer. Thank you. He thanks you. You know, it was such a privilege to work for him, and he was such a great guy. He was such a talented writer. At the same time, he was never uptight about the script. He really empowered all of us. We were all kids to improv and do different things. He was an amazing guy, and I would not be sitting here without the great John Hughes. So we all miss him, and he's a major talent. The thing is, he did what he did for me for many actors and actresses, so I'll always salute him.
And then one more from me, and then I'll turn it over to the audience. You guys look very eager out there.
Anybody old enough to remember Match Game? Remember the guy on Match Game? Hey! Charlene.
Say, or the Showcase Showdown.
Yeah, exactly. This was a 70s game show.
So you were in a little show called Dead Zone. Really, really great show, but...
Wait, hold on. I'm busy. Hold on.
Not now, Ma.
Yeah, exactly. Usually called.
So that, it was a little bit different than what we knew of you for most of your career, and that role was originated by Christopher Walken.
Great Chris Walken, yeah. I mean, that was a privilege. It was produced by a gentleman named Michael Piller, who had created a lot of the, Michael Piller, yes, Deep Space Nine and Star Trek.
Oh.
Yeah, I have the privilege to work for him, and the show, it was really amazing to me. It ran for about 6 years, and I never thought I'd have a TV show. It really challenged me as an actor, and the greatest surprise is because the audience is always in charge and people like it, so I was really grateful for that. It was a really, really fun experience.
Was it difficult for you? I mean, you had to play your character, and then you also had to go back in time and do a little bit of that. So you were almost playing several characters in one.
Yeah, it really was. And for those reasons, it was very challenging. And I was up for it. We shot in Vancouver, which is a great, great city. And we did that. We shot there for about 5 seasons, and then the final season we shot in Montreal. But yeah, I mean, the writing was great, and we had different directors every week. I mean, it's very challenging when you're shooting a television show. It's the same skill set if you're making a movie. You know, the crew and the actors are doing the same thing, but longer hours. We would average about 10 or 12 pages a day, which is pretty incredible. Because every 6 or 7 days, we have to deliver a 60-page script or an hour show. But that was a real blessing, because quite honestly, after Mr. Hughes, I struggled in my 20s to get work and to kind of stay alive in the business. So when that happened, I was really grateful, and it was a great opportunity.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to the audience. So there's 3 microphones, so we're going to kind of have to play ping pong down the aisles. So we'll start over here with you and work our way down.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Hall.
How are you?
Donnie, big fan since the 80s.
Oh, thank you.
She kind of stole my dead zone question, so I'll go
You're doing
this
Dead's on
way.
hand there too, I saw that.
Out of all the 80s movies that, they were a big part of my formative years, my friends as well. Which one, spoke to you personally the most?
It's funny because I kind of look at those films as a trilogy. I mean, it was such a surprise to work for John and do 3 movies in a row. I had no plans of being an actor. I was just blessed by the good Lord to have a good shot and to be lucky enough to meet him and work with him. The interesting thing is he had written Vacation, the first film I did with Chevy. Remember that one? It's on TV a lot. Thank you very much. And so although I didn't meet Mr. Hughes, it led to meeting him on 16 Candles. And so from that experience, he cast me in The Breakfast Club, which was, as we know, kind of serious. It was like a play. You guys like that movie, The Breakfast Club?
Yeah.
And then we went on to Weird Science, so it was just... So that was incredible. I mean, like I said, it was nothing I planned. That was just a good fortune, and that I was able to meet Mr. Hughes and work with him. So I love those films, and I think that after the experience of making... Somebody has a call. Stop calling. After the experience of making those 3 films with John, then I had to deal with a career and learning how to kind of deal with it all. But it was just so much fun. It's hard to pick one. I think Breakfast Club was very serious. We shot in a hotel near the O'Hare Airport. Not a hotel, excuse me. We stayed at a hotel near O'Hare Airport. We shot at a high school where they built the set. And we shot that in about 35 days. It went very quickly. And then that led to Weird Science. On all those films, we were able to, because of John's background in Chicago, he was able to, Chicago. So because of that good fortune of his relationship with Universal Pictures, we were able to go back to Chicago and kind of shoot portions of those films there. So 16 Candles was actually done all in Chicago. On The Breakfast Club, same thing. And then on Weird Science, it was kind of both. We shot in Chicago and back in Los Angeles at Universal Studios. So just the greatest experience of my life. And I wouldn't be sitting here without Mr. Hughes. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
How are you? Good.
Hi, how are you?
Don't be shy. I'm shy too. It's okay. We're up here. We're doing it.
So I wanted to ask. Oh, okay, I want to back up. Hold on just a second.
Me too. I want to start. I need to do over too. It's okay.
Alright, cool, thank you. The character in the Breakfast Club was from related to the most.
So other than the character,
Most.
Wait a minute, she's starting over again. It's okay, man. Take your time. We're not in a rush, right, guys? AC's on. You got the time. We're here. This is the biggest convention center I've ever been.
You can skip that.
What, hon?
You can take the next question while we get
Okay,
clarification.
okay, thank you. We're coming back to you for sure, okay? Thank you. That's an awesome outfit.
We'll actually hop on down here to the end and we'll just sort of work our way back.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So it's an honor to see you. Thank you for being here in Phoenix. And gotta say thank you for Weird Science. It's one of my favorite movies. And to this day, I'm still walking around. He didn't have the life as Letha. I still do that.
Awesome. I can't even do that anymore. Awesome.
Sorry.
Puberty, that voice went away. Oh,
yeah.
That's great.
Hey, but
Let's hear another line. Yeah, please.
I'm another halfway up my ass, but I'm in perfect.
All right, kids, earmuffs. Earmuffs.
With your talent and everything, I just wanted to ask, we talked about losing John Hughes. What are your thoughts on the great Bill Paxton that you worked with him on Weird Science?
Let's get a round of applause for it. He was a great guy. Two things that come to mind. I had the pleasure of seeing Bill a couple of years back, and we had a nice dinner with another mutual friend. And, he was just the greatest guy. He was from Fort Worth, Texas. There was a lot of chat in Bill. And he was just a great guy, compassionate. He loved the process. He always had other projects going on. It's one of these people you meet in life, you really encourage it, and it meant so much to me as a kid. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. And to work with him as a kid, he was great. He really was. He was like an older brother to me. We'd hang out, he'd show me movies, and we did all kinds of stuff together. I met his family, great guy, and one of the nicest people I've had the privilege of working with, and we're all going to miss him. So his wife Louise and their kids, they lived up in Ojai, and it's just a sad loss. But what a great guy, and such a great sense of humor, and what a great body of work he left us to enjoy. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
So thank you for that great impression. Did that better than I did 35 years ago. No, you. No, you're good, No, you're good. You're very good. Thank you, sir. That was awesome. This is great. I literally just got off the plane, came here, guys. I've never experienced anything. This is awesome. This is so much fun. Thank you. Again, I don't know what I'm doing, so don't hold me to it.
How are those lights feeling on the side?
They're bright. I can see everybody's happy faces. It's good. Okay, dear. Well, let's try again, because I need a do-over, too. I'm glad you're smiling.
My character in the Breakfast Club. But that's what I would like.
Character in the Breakfast Club was the one that I related to the most.
Because I want to know.
Because I was the nerd and the outcast as well.
That's really
And
nice.
I wanted to know the character that you've acted, which is your favorite.
Thank you for that question. I'm glad that you related to it, right? That's why we all watch movies, and we want to be entertained and feel something, so thank you for that. Which one did I relate to? Probably Farmer Ted. I mean, I was closest to that mom when I was 15. I was like a collar. What the hell was going on with that? But such a fun experience. I think, honestly, I wasn't even acting at that point in my life. I think that's just something that John saw in me. I was a goofy little kid, and I look back at it now, and I look like I look like an embryo, I look like a bobblehead cut loose. I don't know what it is. But that to me was, there was a real sense of joy and fun because of how John treated people, and how kind he was, and how fun he was, and also because we're making comedies. When you come to the set of a comedy, it's a different thing, But I think there's that sense with a great director, it's like a father. You want to make him happy, you want to please him, and he was like a big brother. We were always conspiring, always trying to make the jokes better or whatever. And that was the thing I remember about John. He was such a great writer, but he was never uptight about his scripts. You could always try things and change things. And he was really great to work with. So that one was probably the most fun, and it was when it was all new to me.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you for the question. All right. Which way do we go now?
Go over here.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my
question was actually very similar to hers, but I do have a second question.
Okay, sure.
You started out your career in more geeky roles. What is something geeky about you personally?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm very clumsy. My eyes are starting to go. I'm 49, so I'm like doing this in the morning. I am clumsy. What else? There's a lot of things about me still. I mean, I think that there's a lot. That's a good start. I think, what else? I don't know. You stumped me, but I think that's a great question. I think what was really cool about John is that he really captured something about youth for all of us. You know, the vulnerability, the feeling of trying to fit in, you know, trying to establish yourself, trying to connect with friends. Well, excuse me. So I think I really owe it to him. It was all his screenplays and his great talent of seeing us. He knew where to put us all, you know. And I remember, you know, it's so funny that all these years later, you know, geeks took over the world, didn't they? I also like the Farmer Ted thing. I don't know where you got that. That cracked me up. Somebody came to a convention last week in Detroit, and somebody mentioned that, like, I'm not a farmer. Whatever the line is, said the movie. It was really funny. But John
I'm
was
not
just,
actually a farmer?
I'm not actually a farmer. Thank you. Yeah. That's all John, you know. That was really great. Thank you for your question. Sir.
Hello, Anthony Michael. Thank you for coming here.
Hello, Indiana Jones. How are you, sir? Two games.
Actually, my name's Anthony as well. So,
Nice to meet you, sir.
first movie I saw you in, Breakfast Club. Love the whole premise of the whole thing. I want to thank you for doing it. But my question is about The Dead Zone. Really enjoyed it. Picked it up on the way home to Phoenix from Alaska from working through the summer at the highest mountain at Denali out there.
Wow.
And it was great. It was a wonderful series. And my question is, obviously, you made The Dead Zone famous, but Christopher Walken did play in it. Did you have any feedback from both of your roles? He asked you about it because he did it first. And what did he say?
It's a great question. I've never had the pleasure of meeting him, but there's so many actors and great stars I admired growing up. Certainly Jack Nicholson, Christopher Walken's another one. So I never met him. One of the things I told the producers when we started is I thought the coat he had and the cane on each self was cool, so we kind of just made that. That was the only thing I took really from it. But back to Christopher Walken, I mean, this is such a great actor. And I think I find what's so interesting about him, he's even better in a bad movie. I can't claim that in some bad movies. But he's always even better in a bad movie. You know what I mean? He's great. And he goes from light to dark. He can be a great villain, and he can be funny. And I recently watched The Dead Zone, his version of it, again, directed by David Cronenberg, and it's brilliant. And what I can say is this, we took some of the imagery from the film and applied it to the television show, like the scene, the bed's on fire and all this stuff. So Michael Piller, who was such a nice man, he really gave me such a huge opportunity. You know, it's interesting, he had created all these Star Trek series, and he was just such a loving, nice person. And he and his son produced the show. And, you know, I never thought I'd have a TV series. You know, it's like being an athlete. You just go season by season, you don't know what the heck is next. And it was such a blessing to have that opportunity. And he was sort of John Hughes on that for me. You know, the offer came through him, and he was executive producer of the show. And he was also a writer, so he was a very interesting man to work for. And that was just such an incredible experience. I loved living in Vancouver. We had such a great ensemble cast. And I worked hard. You know, I worked hard. Television, as I spoke to earlier, you do 12, 14-hour days. So no complaints. It was just a great experience. Thank God
Thank
for
you
it.
so much. Very appreciate it.
Sir, thank you as well.
Have a good
Appreciate
day.
you. You too, sir. And don't hate anybody with those cans, please. That's a nice hat. I like that. Yes, ma'am.
I'm having a fangirl moment right now.
Me too.
I know you were. I was watching you and I could tell. I actually fell in love with you through the Dead Zone. And then I went back, just out of curiosity, because I'm not of the same generation, I went back and watched The Breakfast Club and all those, and Edward Scissorhands. But I fell in love with you in the Dead Zone. And my question to you is, would you ever consider reprising The Dead Zone, like as a movie?
Nice question. Thank you. The company that made the show is called Lionsgate, and I think at one point, there was some interest in them after we did our 6th season, in like creating a video game, and there was some talk of doing a film, but I don't think it's gonna happen. But hopefully the show will come back with another actor. You never know. I would be open to it. I'm a lot older now, but it was just such an incredible experience. I mean, I want to say a couple things about it. You know, I'm a man of faith, and I thought that the show had a certain spirituality, which was really interesting for me. And there were certain moments that were interesting and very challenging. Like, there were certain things that we discovered as a crew, not me. It wasn't me. It was like the camera guy, like when I would touch things, and the camera would move to my hand. Or there was an interesting process of discovery that we experienced with the crew and myself. So it was such an incredible show. I mean, it became kind of a formula, but we kind of stumbled into it in a way. So it was just really an incredible experience. As I said, I never thought I'd have a TV show, and we did 80 episodes and ran it for 6 years. So.
Well, I think you did a really good job of embodying what Stephen King had in mind.
Thank you.
Because I've read the book and compared, and I really like the way that you and the crew had done it.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that. Thank you very much. What a cool hat! Wow. Is that a little lady jumper?
Oh, she's a Twi'lek from Star Wars.
Of course she is. There's her little lady. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's her 4th Comic-Con and she's 4 years old.
Yes, sir. Awesome. I see that smile. There you go. Awesome.
My question for you, long time fan.
Oh, thank you, sir. This is so humbling. You guys know, I feel like this is a band should be coming out right now. I'm like, what? Who's here?
The Weird Science, you had a Slurpee dumped on you by
Iron Man.
Iron Man. Yeah. Iron Man to be.
Right,
So,
right.
And then in Pretty in Pink, you pretty much had to lie about how you got the girls' panties and the King
16 Candles, right. For a lot of people, they glor those two movies.
Sorry,
no words. No,
yeah.
I'm not offended in any way. Right.
And then to jump forward from that into Edward Scissorhands, for instance, and you're, this jock, this bully who had been bullied in his previous roles as an actor. I was curious for you how much of that was working out or just life changed you?
Life changed me.
Yeah.
I mean, later, a couple years later when I did, actually a couple years earlier, when I trained for Johnny Be Good, I think that's what it was, because I went from like 5'7" to 5'11", like most guys,
Yeah.
like in the summer or something, So when I did Johnny Be Good, I hired a trainer that was a fighter, and a buddy I met through Tyson, and he was a guy named from Stockton, California, named Tom Petty. So I hired Tom to train me, and we, I trained like a fighter for about 6 weeks. So it was at that point that I put on about 25 pounds or whatever. But then after that, I'm no gym rat. I guess I just grew into a bigger guy. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then the follow-up as an actor, though, in terms of...
Wait a minute, I'm an actor?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I forgot.
I think so. How much of that was mentally different for you because you had to, get into the mindset of this? I don't know.
You mean on Scissorhands?
Yeah, in Scissorhands.
Again, you're giving me too much credit, and I appreciate it. It was really more Tim Burton saw it. I think Tim Burton saw it was kind of funny that the guy, this kid from, scrawny kid from 16 Candles and all those movies, would play a villain suddenly in this world that he created. That's one of the things I love talking about is these great filmmakers I've worked with, and Tim Burton is at the top of the list. I mean, he's certainly like a modern day Walt Disney. He's a brilliant guy. He's done so many incredible movies, and they're beautiful. So I think it was Tim's idea. I had a meeting with Tim, and he was very interesting. I remember going into the audition, and who remembers The Cure? Didn't Tim Burton look like the lost member of The Cure? Remember with the hair? And he would like sit in the chair. He was very kind of like, quiet, twisting his hair. And he was a very interesting guy, very nice, very kind, kind of quiet. But I noticed too that when he directed, he kind of sprung into action, became a different guy. He was incredible. And I remember walking into his office. We shot in, honey, what's going on? I walked into his office, and all the drawings for Nightmare Before Christmas were on the wall. So I guess the comparison I make to Tim Burton is fair because he really was like a Walt Disney. There's a lot, my personal feeling is that it's almost like Pinocchio and Romeo and Juliet. There's a lot of fantasy and fairy tale of that film. But again, this was another one where I was just so fortunate to get to work for him. And when I got to the set, I noticed this interesting dynamic that I had the good fortune of with John Hughes, where he had this really close working relationship with Johnny Depp, who was an incredible actor, as we all know. So I kind of keyed in on that. And it was amazing. They brought an entire crew out that painted all the houses in Tampa, in that one community. And they brought in all the topiaries. I mean, this guy just created a world, you know?
Yeah.
And I had the pleasure of working with all these great actors in that film, Johnny and Winona, and I didn't have a chance to work with him, but I can say that I was in a movie with Vincent Price. That's something else. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you as well. I'll take that hat off, honey. I love that hat. Look at that hat. Looks like a pair of legs. Look at that thing. Bouncing as she goes. Ma'am.
It's been said a few times, we're all having our fan moment.
Oh, thank you.
And we love you very much, and it's been a pleasure to introduce my now 12-year-old daughters to the movies that I grew up with, and they all seem to have grown around you.
Thank you. I love you guys right back. It's so funny, you know, I've never had this kind of, until I started doing conventions, you know, it's so nice. It's, in everybody's work, you never know if people are seeing it, you know?
Yeah.
And even though I'm saying that as an actor, you might think I'm just saying it, but honestly, so it's so nice to hear that. So I love you back. Thank you very much.
Now that we're having our moment, when you're in your everyday life,
Yeah.
who do you have a fan moment for? Who is it that when they're around, you're just all geeky and crazy?
Well, there's so many people. You know, growing up, I had a lot of heroes. They were, you know, in rock and roll, athletes. There's a lot of heroes I had. Not so much actors until I got into the business, but there's so many great actors that I love to work with. There's many, and many that I haven't worked with. I can speak to the, you know, working with Mr. Pitt on War Machine. That was an incredible thing. As I said, you know, I have such a great respect for the men and the women of our military. They really embody character. Let's give it up. It's about service in life. It's not what you take from life, it's what you give to it. And that's something that's so important to remember. And every time, I'm sure you can all attest to this, you meet a man or a woman that works and serves our nation in whatever division of the armed forces, I'm always struck by the humility, the character, the goodness of them, you know? And it's never about money, it's always about service. So when I made the film, I was just so excited to work with Brad. I mean, this guy's a great actor. I'm a big Brad Pitt fan, like everybody, and he's a great comedian. His company, Plan B, produced the film. And I just felt so keyed up that when I got to set, you know, mine kind of disappeared. Sometimes I make the choice to be a bit of a method actor. You know, and this one, it was like that for me. The movie was inspired by a book called The Operators, and it was written by a man named Michael Hastings, who was in bed with General McChrystal and the troops when he led counterinsurgents in Afghanistan. So it was based on that in part, but just a great project. And I think the memory, keeping the memory of my grandfather, my uncle's alive, and the sentiment I just expressed regarding, you know, how I feel about our great military, that was all the inspiration I need, you know. And when I got to the set, I didn't want to lean on Brad, I just wanted to be there for him. And you know, if you get to see the film tonight, it starts streaming tonight. It's really great, so I hope you guys can see it, or whatever. It's
Unfortunately,
Netflix.
I'm not allowed to watch war movies because my husband's military and has PTSD.
Oh, wow, okay, I got you.
So I'm gonna have to hide that one and watch it by myself.
Yes, ma'am, okay, that's fine. But so I just was so honestly inspired, you know, and I just kept that mindset, you know, it wasn't about me, it was about serving this movie, and it's the biggest movie I've ever been a part of. It's also the best movie I think I've ever made, so I really hope you guys can see it. This is my personal take on it. So
Thank you so much.
thank you. Appreciate it.
So I wasn't born in the 80s, I'm only 17, but I love
Sound
cheesy
born,
80s movies. I love them so
Cool.
much.
I like
Mike and
cheesy.
Vinny,
It's great.
Karate Kid, St. Elmo's Fire.
What else?
There's Goonies and Edward Scissorhands.
You do a lot of catching up for 17.
My mom has definitely got me into that.
Oh, that's it? That's it, Dad? This family's working in place.
Yeah, so you did a lot of movies about underdogs, especially John Hughes, you know, with 16 Candles and Weird Science, and
Right.
even in Breakfast Club, you know, Claire and Andrew, those characters, despite being popular in school, were still the underdogs with finding a purpose and who they were. How do you think that those characters involved in those movies really inspired you?
It's a great question. I think the way I'd like to answer that is by saying this. It took me a long time, and I've had many years to reflect on what the Breakfast Club means to everybody, and it's incredible. It's so powerful. But what I noticed was that there was kind of a recurring theme, which is just this: by using humor, by exposing the vulnerabilities of teenagers, that's actually a universal theme. You know, as you get older, you realize, well, But adults are big kids too. And with Mr. Hughes, what I noticed that there's a theme that all the people, all the kids in his films, everybody winds up a little bit better off at the end, right? So I think, without getting too heady, I've done a lot of studying trying to understand screenwriting and stories. I'm also a writer. I think films are about redemption too. You know, Wizard of Oz, she's trying to get back home, right? Or in the John Hughes world, everyone's trying to be accepted. They're trying to find love. They're trying to find friends. They're trying. I mean, so I think he tapped into something that was so human and basic and universal. So that's what I saw. I hope that answered your question, but you know what I mean? Because it affects the roles, and I think it's incredible because the scripts were so funny, but he had such a talent for empowering people. He just made people feel comfortable and he let them try things. And so he benefited from that. The film's got even better and funnier. So thank you for your question.
They definitely feel good.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
So, Dad?
My daughter, is she wonderful?
She is wonderful. Proud dad. Why are you guys not
She
sitting
just turned
together?
17 yesterday.
Did she? Happy birthday. What's her name, Dad?
Her name's Erin.
Aaron, happy birthday. Yes, man. Awesome.
So, when I was in grade school, I watched a lot of the John Hughes movies. Okay, fine, high school.
I got held back too, don't feel bad.
Anyways, a lot of the characters that you portrayed there kind of leaned slightly towards the nerdy side, right? And for me, they made me realize that the nerdy guy can triumph, that they can get the girl. And today, like you said, the geeks are taking over. In fact, a lot of us are rock stars. A lot of them are rock stars. My question, though, is how do you think those roles shaped the nerd geek culture of today, and how do you think they would be reimagined today?
It's a great question. I think that's not for me to answer. I mean, I don't mean it to be in an overconfident way. I think that everybody is inspired by something and someone, right? Like my heroes growing up were Dylan and Hendrix. And then I learned when I read about Hendrix that his hero was Dylan, right? So everybody inspires everybody else. One of the movies that was mentioned to me the other day was Pitch Perfect. And they do. So over the years, I've getting requests where they want likeness approval because they want to put a poster in the background of for one of my films with John. So I guess what I'm saying is I just encourage. I think it's great. I think that's what art's about. It should inspire. And I think it's a great thing. I think it's a good thing. I don't ever get uptight about it. Oh, they stole that, or And also, ever since I was a kid, I was never like, oh, I don't want to talk about this. Some actors are more like that. Whoa, who showed up? The Beatles? What's going on? There is a concert over there.
I think Bob Dylan's over there.
So that's my answer. So I don't look at it as an offense. I look at it as part of culture that film and television, all the things that we love and enjoy and entertainment. Everybody's inspired and it's passed on, just like the family.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Well, that's a great T-shirt, Original Gangsters.
That's right.
Very
Hello,
cool.
sir. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
I'm glad that somebody already asked about Weird Science and working with Mr. Paxton. And also that scene where Gary was completely smashed still makes me laugh to this day. I could be 80 years old and then just roll on the floor laughing at you just doing your thing. Was that scripted, or was that something you and Hughes got together with and said, okay?
Which one specifically, sir? I want to make sure I'm clear.
Well, Weird Science.
Right. Where
You were smashing the bar.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, I got the
Yeah,
story.
I mean, like, how did that feel? Was there any uncomfortable feelings that you had doing it? And how did you guys do it? Did you guys just go in Anthony Michael and just go knock it out and just be drunk?
You know what? It was B, and not B drunk, but what I did is like when I was on set. First of all, growing up, one of my heroes, and we got to give him a round of applause, was George Carlin.
George Carlin.
I also love Richard Pryor. I mean, these guys are Mount Rushmore of comedy, right? So as a kid, I would be listening to those albums, and remember tapes? Anybody remember cassette tapes? Millennials, they don't know anything about those cassette tapes, but anyway. So I was listening to those albums, right? In my room, growing up in high school. I remember getting my first stereo, I'd be listening to Van Halen, reading Cream magazine, and I'd be watching, listening to old, remember Cream magazine? So, thank you. You're dating yourselves. And so, when I got to the set, what I learned quickly about John, and he was a fan too. He loved all the old comedies.
Yeah.
Like in Home Alone, when Macaulay figures out how to beat, how to catch Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern by watching the old comedies, right? I can tell you this, John Hughes told me two things. He used to say, you gotta write about what you know. But in fact, when I saw that, I smiled because we'd go home to his house on the weekend. I was like his third son. So his wife, Nancy, and his two little boys, they looked like two little Macaulay Culkins, James and John. They were like family to me. So they'd have me over for the weekend. I mean, this is the kind of man that he was, and Nancy too. So this is a long-winded answer, but my point was, I would go to the set and I would imitate Richard Pryor. And there was a character, Richard Pryor, they called My Mom. Well, I saw get some sunshine on your face. Why you not come? So it was just funny kid, right? And so John Hughes would be cracking up, and I was like, he was like a big brother. I just wanted to make him laugh, And so that's what inspired the word science scene. And you nailed it. That's exactly what he did. He set the scene up. We didn't write it, and he said, "I just want you to like wing it." And I don't want to claim any, screenwriting credits, but that's how cool he was, and he really did do that. So you're psychic, man. You should know that. That's what he did, sir. Thank you for your question. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Hall. We appreciate you.
Sir, thank you. Can you explain where in heaven you fell from?
I came the other way.
Wow. Okay. So you horny angel, or I don't know.
You incorporate a lot of roles that I'm sure everybody in here can say they feel like they fell into while they were growing up.
Thank you.
Personally, Brian was a very significant role for me, especially when Brian had his breakdown in The Breakfast Club, because I think several of us can say that we actually experienced that, we lived it, those feelings and emotions. So thank you for portraying that. Thank you for being us, on the screen.
Thank you. That really means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, you really do represent us.
Cool.
My question for you is, giving that information and knowing the roles that you have played, what words of encouragement or knowledge or wisdom do you have for those who are Brian in real life, who are pushing through it and trying to persevere?
I appreciate that very much. Again, this is something that was John. It was a much greater mind than I, but I think that he understood that, so that always came through in the text. Exposing that vulnerability, allowing yourself to be seen. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be loved. I can't say I have any wisdom to offer. I would just say, with regard to, the old saying, if you do something you love, it'll never work a day in your life. I've been so blessed by God to be an actor. I never thought it would happen. But as it affects what you're saying specifically, the crisis of bullying has become a huge thing in our country, right? So that was really touching. I met a gentleman the other day in Detroit. I mean, this guy was my age, and he came up and said the same thing to me. And quite honestly, he broke down and cried, and I almost started crying. I mean, I really did. I was just getting upset with him because it was a moment, and he really shared the same sentiment you did, and I was really moved by that. Because again, you don't know how you can affect people in life, so. I think it's that thing when Ellen Sanders show you to be kind, right? Be kind to one another. So I hope that helps, but that was the genius of John. That's what I mean about the redemption factor. We all want to be loved and seen. And I think it's a very important element in film. If it holds up and stands up, that it has that kind of arc. And how he did that is magic. Because I've had many years and met so many people. I hate saying fans. I've met so many people that have shared that with me, what the movie meant to them. And I have a couple other thoughts about it. I think it's kind of a deconstruction of stereotypes, because the point at the end of the movie is we're all like each other. We all have this and that and everything else, right? So if you point a finger, there's three looking at you, right? So it's just be kind and push through and do something that you love and own whatever it is that you know you are and can be. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
There's been a trend in Hollywood the last few years to remake movies from the 80s. We had Total Recall a few years ago. I think Dirty Dancing is in post-production. And for a while, there was a rumor going around about The Breakfast Club and a possible remake. And I think there was quite a groundswell in social media, people kind of saying, no, please don't. It's iconic the way it is. You really can't improve perfection. But still, those kind of things come up quite a bit, and you were in quite a few popular 80s movies. How would you feel if they did remake one of those? Like, what's your opinion on that?
Well, this is going to maybe surprise you guys. And it's a direct answer to your question that took me by surprise. In 1987, sadly, the last time I ever spoke to John Hughes. Now, who showed up now? Is Van Halen? What's going on? Yeah, being a goof. John called me with John Candy on the phone. Oh God, exactly. That's what I said. I was like, oh God, that's incredible. And we just hung out on the phone and I was just laughing with them. They would just talk. I mean, and I was so surprised and happy to hear from him. It was at that point that John mentioned he was thinking about it. And he did mention it on that phone call, which I was like surprised by it. I thought it was really cool. And sadly, obviously, he went home, so he's not with us any longer. But my feeling is, I think he was in his plan. I think he was intrigued by that idea of them all meeting, in their 40s now. I mean, I'm 49, but that's one of the things we talked about, among other things, and it was just a great time. We're just hanging out with them both on the phone. Now let's talk about the great John Candy for a second. I mean, come on. This guy made me laugh harder than anybody. Who's old enough to remember SCTV and the Schminky Brothers, right? Schminky's a Josh and Schminky. I mean, he would make me laugh my butt off on set. And he didn't have to, I was just a kid, right? But on the set of that, and here's another funny story, on the set of the vacation film, at the end of the shoot, we shot an ending that they didn't feel worked at the studio, Warner Brothers. So we went back, and what's really funny is puberty kicked in for me. So if you look closely, I'm about a foot taller, and I had like a zit on the face, and I started to change, right? And of course, now here's how Chetty would respond versus John. John would joke and make me laugh, right? And Chetty would go, yeah, nice zit. Funny guys. I mean, they were heroes to me, So that last conversation back to John, that was the last time I spoke to John. Sadly, and it wasn't his planning to do a sequel. So thank you for your question.
I didn't mean sequel, I meant a remake.
I'm sorry, you meant a remake, right?
Yeah.
He was thinking about doing like a sequel kind of. A remake, yeah, I mean, I think that stuff, I mean, I was surprised and really honored that they did a television show of Weird Science, but I think eventually it probably will happen. Maybe, I don't know if I'll still be walking Earth, but I would welcome it. I think the text can hold up, and I think that young actors today are so talented. I don't think there's any big mystery to it. There's a lot of great talented actors and actresses. These younger generations seem even more capable and entrepreneurial and everything else. So I think between the fact that, as a script that holds up, I think it's a fair likelihood that it might get remade. I don't know. It's called it Universal, but I think it could, and that would encourage it. I think it would be good.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a long answer, right? That's right. Listen, sir, how are you?
Good.
You want to lower that mic, bud? You're on your tippies there. Tippies. There you go. Just do one of these. There you go.
The reason I'm asking you a question is because I'm one of those kids that looks back to the old school movies, namely Real Genius, The Blues Brothers, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Wait, can you come up here and talk? I want to come up here and talk about it. I wait for you. You got some water? What's this? More than onions. So we're going to step this up. We're going to talk about this. Yeah. Tell everybody your name, buddy.
My name is Logan.
Logan, what a handsome guy. Good to meet you, pal. So tell me what movies you dig. What are your favorites?
Mostly the comedy, old school ones.
Right on.
Because they make me laugh.
Me too. When I was your age, I was watching films that were in the 70s, like Caddyshack. You probably discover those next. But you got great taste, and that's the thing, to be creative. That's what you gotta love about movies, right? You go and you find what you like, just like music or whatever. Cool, so how's everything going in school this year?
Good.
Yeah?
Today was the last day of school.
Oh, dude, high five. And look, now you're at a convention. Awesome. And so what else, do you have any questions? Is there anything else?
Yeah, my question was,
Listen.
what was your experience like working with Chevy Chase?
He was funny. He was a very tall guy. He was very sarcastic. He was very cool. And I was a little boy like you, and I was watching him on Saturday Night Live. So suddenly I'm on the set, and there's John Candy and all these people that you know, right? So I felt like you did, right? I was like, wow, this is really awesome. And then all these years later, I think it's very important to appreciate things, right? So I always, when I go on a set, I always feel like I'm always like, wow, I get to do this for a living. It's pretty amazing. And so Checker was very funny, and so was John. And we shot all around California. And then we also traveled. Like these days, they would do CGI, right? So we actually went to Colorado, and we went to Arizona, and then we finished the movie in Los Angeles. Yeah. Cool.
The reason I like to come to this convention is because I want to be an actor when I grow up.
Awesome. I think you're going to do it, right, everybody? So you guys do it? No question. You can easily do it. You're going to make it happen. You just have to like study a little bit. You get into an acting class and just have fun. There's a lot of reading you can do about it too. But mainly, I think the coolest thing to do is just keep watching movies and see what inspires you. And that's cool. Was there one movie or anything that really made you feel that you wanted to be an actor? Or what happened that you made that decision? Because I can tell you're serious about it.
One of the movies that made me want to be an actor was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Awesome. I didn't see the sequel yet, but I heard it was awesome. Now, do you have some grape gum today? Your lips are looking a little purple there. What's going on? I know Mom didn't feed you anything purple.
I had shaved ice for a party.
Well, dude, you're throwing down. I mean, you're graduating, you're having parties, now you're running conventions. You're going to be an actor, right?
Right.
So, what kind of movies are you going to make? Are you going to make like Guardians of the Galaxy movies or whatever? Because I'll be about 75 and I want to jump.
Mostly interested in comedies, adventure movies.
And what else? Those two, that's a good combination.
Let's see what else.
Now, was the sequel of Guardians, I heard that was even better than the first one. Did you love it?
I loved it.
Awesome, Logan. Awesome. Well, it's great to meet you, and I know you're going to make it happen, and dreams do come true. And I'm here to tell you, and everybody's holding you accountable, you're going to be an actor, right? Don't take the microphone. All right, pal. Logan, future movie star right there.
We should find out if Logan's going to be doing any signings this week.
Yes, Logan, yes. Okay. If you haven't had your pictures printed up, we'll get them done. What a good guy. All right, Logan. Big day for Logan, graduating. Awesome. Well, last day of school, I should say, not graduating. Old guys forget things, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I'm also younger in my
Awesome.
That's my Girl Scout shirt that over there.
Oh, Girl Scouts, all right.
It's a
Girl
birthday.
Scouts, all right. Do you guys bring cookies? No? Okay.
We just don't want to look at those anymore.
Yeah, let's go.
Right. Well, I know I speak for everyone of my age when I say that teenagers today still look up to your movies. I don't know anyone who hasn't seen Breakfast Club.
Thank you.
So
Thank
you're
you.
still really a legend. And I'm gonna go a little bit off topic here.
Cool, I do all the time.
So obviously when you became famous and everything, and you started making the Breakfast Club movies and became under the Bret Pack, you got a lot of fandom, a lot of people recognizing you. You know, what is your favorite story of people freaking out about you, like on the street or something?
Well, I don't want to sound egotistical, but I actually had a funny one. One time, one guy was drunk and he was leaving the diner and he threw a tomato at me. I can't make this stuff up, guys. So I've been so fortunate. I think it's I've never thought like, I hate the word celebrity. I'm just a person and I love doing what I do and I feel grateful to God that I can do it. But the experience of it, I can tell you when I was a kid, it freaked me out. It makes you very self-conscious, at least at that age when I was. So I think a good thing to think about is maybe, shifting, not that I'm saying you're saying this, but I just think the shift from being famous to just wanting to keep doing what I could do, and I think I made a decision after 16 Candles that I would literally, to myself, I would say, well, I just really want to keep doing this the rest of my life, and I want to grow and keep working, and I think that's the way to look at it, I think, in terms of your work. What anyone does here, right? We all have different trades, we all help each other, everybody's valuable, everybody has a contribution to make. So I've tried to just make it, about that in terms of my work, and I don't want to pretend like, oh, I planned this or that. I had no idea that is what happened, but I did make a decision once I knew as a young man that I was working and could do it, that I just wanted to keep going and keep growing, you know. It's like when you listen to athletes, right? After a game they might lose, we're going to get better this week, and then we're going to go back out and keep playing. So I think that's a good piece of advice, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Awesome. Bring the cookies next time, girls. Pass them around, we're all getting hungry. Thank you for that.
Hi. So I had a real question, but now it's, can I come up there and ask you a question?
Let's go. We got water, we got microphones, and you should see how cool everybody looks from here. Yeah. Let's give her a round of applause, everybody. Logan didn't take all the water. I got
I mean, Logan had a really great idea, so.
I bet. So tell us what you want to talk about.
So I was curious, I recently saw Rob Lowe do a speech, and he was asked about the term the Brat Pack, and I was wondering what you think about it, if you love it or if you hate it.
Oh, okay, thank you. That's a good question. So when that came up, you know what it was? It was actually an article in a magazine in New York City, and I think what they did, the guy was going to be a wise guy, because they wanted to get all those guys together. A bunch of them wasn't there, and they were having some drinks and talking. And I think the plan was to kind of get them yapping about themselves. And then, you know, the original, where that term comes from, there was Frank Sinatra and all these legends in the 50s, the Rat Pack, right? And then what happened was they kind of used it as like the cover story, and it became the Rat Pack. To be honest, at that age, I thought when I read that article, it was kind of mean. Yeah. And nobody wants to get back to labeling and bullying, right? I didn't really think it was, but over time, I don't think, it doesn't bother me anymore. But I think at the time, it was really kind of a divisive thing by the magazine, because they were trying to get those guys to, and then the writer was just a little bit negative, I felt, because he was trying to pigeonhole, I think, the actors as being wild guys or whatever they were. So that's my answer. Thank you. Awesome. All right, let's give a round of applause, everybody. Awesome.
And we got time for one, maybe two more, depending on how quick we go.
Great.
Now the pressure's on. First of all, thank you for coming to Phoenix.
Sir, thank you.
Secondly, I'm going to be an actor when I grow up too.
Cool. Me too.
Lastly, my question, being on the Dead Zone, are you a Stephen King fan, and is there a certain Stephen King story that you would love to take on?
I have one, okay. It was only, I was in Boston where I was born. I grew up in New York City, but my family, my mother's family was from Boston. I was leaving a Red Sox game with my uncle and his wife. And a young guy came up to me, young man in his early 20s. He said, Mr. Hall, I'm Stephen King's nephew. And I said, oh, that's awesome. I said, has he been watching the show? This is around the time of the show. And he said, yeah, and he really likes it. So that's about as close as I got to Stephen King. But I did read The Dead Zone. I'm not going to lie and say that I read a lot of his books, but I've read a few of them, and I think it's incredible. He's got such a gift. He pulls you in, and it's just such a natural talent as a writer. And he's also a cool guy. He plays in a band, and he's done all these interesting things, right? So, and also, by the way, I just thought of John Hughes. I learned this when I read about Stephen King. He also writes about what he knows. By that I mean he and his wife had a pet cemetery in their yard, I read, right? So then he writes that. So it's very interesting how writers draw from life, as they should. And I think that that's interesting. And I also heard him say something which I thought was fascinating in an interview. He says when he goes into his process, it's almost like a form of hypnosis. Like he goes into a state where you can just let whatever come to him. So as an aspiring writer, I find that interesting because I think you have to create that time with any kind of art that you do to be alone and calm yourself down, put on music or whatever. But I'm a big fan of his, and I was so honored that we could say it was based on characters from his book. And he's a great writer that many people love. So thank you for that. All right, sir.
Welcome to Phoenix.
Thank you.
So you went from being a sweet, innocent kid in John Hughes movies to being a total jerk in Psych.
Psych? Trout, right? Trout.
Yes. Hated him. But I love you. So my question is, did you have more fun being a good guy or a jerk like Trout?
That's an awesome question. First of all, I thought that was so funny. I love those episodes that I did on Psych. It was an opportunity to go back to Vancouver. Those guys who started that show and that crew were great. And that was a great show, very loved. I cracked up. The scene that I loved was when I fire everybody and then I get fired in the same scene. I thought that was awesome. And then the thing where I'm blindfolded and I'm doing Tai Chi, I don't know what the hell that was. But I had a blast doing it. And it had been a while since I'd done comedy. A lot of the actors that I love, I just had the privilege of being in a film with Ben Kingsley, Sir Ben Kingsley, which is War Machine. Yeah, Ben Kingsley's mom is right here. Here she is. No, I'm just joking. So the point I'm going to make is a lot of the great actors that I love, they go from light to dark in their performances, and he's one of them. And they can also be funny in a dark role, or you know what I mean. So I think it's funny that you thought I was a jerk. But I also, when I was doing it, I just thought it was fun. It was goofy. It was just funny. So I really enjoyed that show, and the writers were great. One little secret about that show is that there's so much dialogue. They actually have teleprompters for us, and they have little monitors on stands because there's so much dialogue it often changes. And I thought that was cool too. I mean, it's not, you got to know your lines, but it was so rapid fire. You know how it was on the show with dialogue and everything. So it was a great experience working on that show. And thank you. And please love me, Kim. Don't hate me. I love you. Thank you. That's funny. I really thought that was a funny character. What an idiot. He fires everybody and then gets a call. Well, I'm fired? Okay, good. Thank you for that.
Well, unfortunately,
Done? Okay. I
That's
had
an
such a good
hour.
time. Thank you. I wish you guys could see him from here.
in case you didn't get enough of Anthony Michael Hall, he's going to be here all weekend signing autographs, doing photo ops. You're going to do selfies at your table.
Let's do it.
He'll be here starting 10:30 tomorrow morning and 10:45 on Sunday. So definitely stop by and see him in the third floor media guest area.
And I just want to say a special thank you to all of you for being here, because without an audience, I wouldn't have a job. So I love you guys. Thank you.